Alright guys, welcome back. Today I'm going to be going over the exact ETFs that I'm personally using in my long-term retirement accounts to build wealth at 19 years old. It's simple, diversified, and meant to grow no matter what the market does. And I've tried and seen a ton of different setups, and this is my personal favorite out of all the options that I've tried. And the best part about this setup is it works if you're starting out small or if you're just trying to invest consistently with maybe a bigger amount. So my main ETF that I buy in this account, the foundation to the whole portfolio, is my S&P 500 fund, VOO. This basically gives you exposure to the top 500 companies in the US, and you can expect an annual rate of return of somewhere around 10 to 12%. Compounds quietly in the background. It gives me exposure to companies like Amazon, Google, Nvidia, and so on. The companies that really have carried the market in the last 10 to 20 years. For me personally, I like to keep VOO around 50%. I'm a little bit under that right now because I'm heavier in growth, but it's boring. You can depend on it. Generally a lower risk investment, and it's great for compounding if you're not someone who wants to go do hard research and pick individual stocks. My next ETF is QQQM. It's basically just a cheaper version of QQQ. It gives you exposure to the NASDAQ 100. This is your tech and innovation sector. You're getting exposure to semiconductors, cloud, AI, cybersecurity, things that have really been carrying the market over the last 15 years. I'm trying to build this up to about 20% of my retirement account. This is really where I expect to get that high growth. If you're looking for things like getting exposure to Nvidia, Broadcom, Meta, all the other stocks like that, the AI leaders, this is definitely a great fund. This is overall just a great complement to VOO. VOO gives you that stability, while QQQM is like that extra horsepower. Third, I add a layer of SCHG. This is Schwab's large cap growth fund. It filters them by strong earnings, quality, and consistent performance. I see this as a bit lower risk alternative to QQQM, but still presenting higher growth in the S&P 500 because this is just strictly large cap stocks. Also trying to get this ETF to about 20% of my retirement account at this moment. I think this is overall just great for getting broad growth, specifically large cap stocks, maybe a little more diversified than QQQM, but still clearly a growth fund. And lastly, I balance this all out with my dividend ETF, SCHD. SCHD gives you those strong dividend payers, companies with strong cash flow, consistent dividend growth, and strong balance sheets. Basically acts as a stabilizer in my portfolio. When things get volatile, typically SCHD either is green or just holds up much better than, let's say, like the growth ETFs and even the S&P. And even though it is technically a dividend ETF, it's not boring by any means. Even though the last 2 years have been pretty boring, it's had many years where it's actually even outperformed the entire S&P 500. This gives me just that small piece of stability that I'm looking for at my age. I don't need much of it right now, obviously, since I'm not planning to touch this account for a long time. But this not only gives me a decent dividend to start building cash flow in this account, but also just gives me that exposure outside of just specifically tech. Anyways, let me know what you guys think of my 4-fund portfolio that I use in my Roth IRA. Again, it's not financial advice. This is personally just what I use based on my own research. But just to be clear, I only want U.S. stocks. I'm not really looking for an international ETF, at least at this point. I just overall like the setup, specifically being heavier in growth for someone that's my age at 19. And then later on, as time goes on, I'll probably shift more to having a bigger position in just the S&P 500, and then obviously in my dividend ETF, SCHD, as I get closer to that age. Anyways, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and if you're interested in seeing exactly what I do with my portfolio, make sure you check out the link below where I have my Discord.